Hey everyone, Mark here with Mark's Finance and Fitness. Today I want to talk about something I think is on everyone's mind. With the crazy year we've had now in 2020, probably crazy for everyone, I want to talk about what you should do with your money to end this year 2020. What should you be doing to ensure your financial health and your financial wealth for the future? Now this is something that you can not only just finish the year off with, but you could take it into next year and probably for the rest of your life. So I hope you guys take this seriously, and I look forward to sharing this with you. I'm going to be giving 3 priorities in this video that you should be focused on to end 2020. I'm also going to reveal stocks that I'm going to buy now in the month of November. I might be doing this in the future where I talk about stocks I'm either going to buy or sell, so you guys can hear my input and leave your input in the comments as well. So let's get started. The stock market has definitely been chaotic. Of course, we had the elections. They're still being contested. We have infection rates going up. We have articles where it says the stock market is still rallying even though infections are going way up. I think this is a lot. It has to do a lot with the Pfizer releasing news that their vaccine is 90% effective. So that really boosted the confidence of a lot of investors. But then you have articles where, for example, the state of New Mexico is closing down for 2 weeks to help their skyrocketing infection rates. Will other states follow? If they start to follow, you can bet that this will have a negative effect on the stock market. So with all this volatility, what should you be doing? Well, I'm going to help tell you what you should be doing, and that's going to be through 3 priorities. So let's go through these priorities. Priority 1, and this is, I think, should be on everyone's list, is you should have enough money saved for 6 months worth of expenses. I've stated this in a last video, but I can't stress this enough. Everyone at some point in their life will go through a hard time or fall on hard times, and you don't want to worry about money during that time. You want to be able to have a reserve set aside that you could dip into in case you absolutely need to. What they recommend is 3 to 4 months, but I recommend 6 months. I like to be extra conservative here and make sure that you have funds that will last you for 6 months in case you lose your job or something, while you lose your job happens. You want to be able to cover those expenses and not have to take out any debt or anything of that matter. The general rule as far as saving is you want to save at least 20% of your income that you make. At least 20%. I think it should be more towards 50%. And I'm not saying that this all goes towards savings, because I'm going to talk about 2 other priorities that you can divide this 20 to 50% of your income between. So I highly suggest to sit down, look at your income versus your expenses, and decide how much money you can set aside for things like savings and these other 2 priorities I'm going to go over. Make sure it's at least 20%. If you're not there, try to look at some expenses you can cut so you can get to that 20%. But make a goal to at least save 50% of your income, and that's going to really set you up for some great wealth in the future. So be sure to save. A thing that I like to do with my money that I save is I like to put it in a high yield savings account. Regular banks these days, they pay virtually nothing in interest to you. But a high yield savings account, such as Ally Bank, that's the bank that I use, they're going to be paying you 10 times more interest than any bank like Wells Fargo or anybody's going to be paying you. So I like to park my money in there, so that way at least I get some decent interest back with the money that I let sit there and only for emergency uses. So that's priority number 1, is to save. The second priority is to invest. Now, I just went over how the market is being very volatile. But don't let that scare you. Don't have fear in that. You should just focus on investing regularly and consistently. And in my last video, or one of my last videos, I went over 3 scenarios where the winner of that example of 3 different investors was the one that just stayed steady and invested regularly. They beat the other two who tried to time the market, one timing it at the worst possible times and one timing it at the best possible times. So just invest. The stock market has never gone down in any 20-year period, so especially if you're young, there's no excuse to try to time the market. You should just ignore the news and just invest, set it, and forget it. And I guarantee you, every time you look, whether it's up or down, just be very secure in your decision, knowing that by the time it comes to retirement, you're going to have a really good nest egg. And I really stress that, the way I invest is I like to buy dividend stocks because they pay me dividends. I think that is the best way to invest in the stock market. You make your own decision. Maybe you want to focus on growth, and that's fine. But I want a dividend portfolio that will pay me enough by the time I retire to cover my bills and maybe more. So that way I have, extra money to live comfortably in retirement and do things that I want. And again, with that 20% rule, that's going to be savings and investing and the next priority that I'm going to go over. And at least 20%, shoot for that 50%. The third priority you should focus on, and these aren't necessarily in order. You need to see which one you're lacking in most, and then put them in order of priority. So this priority is pay off your debt. Debt will keep you underwater like nothing else can when it comes to your money. Especially if you have debt where it's 4% or more interest, you need to really prioritize paying this off and getting it off your slate so you can use that money to actually work for you and grow by investing or saving. So I highly recommend that any debt, period, but especially anything that's over 4% interest that they're charging you, you focus on getting that paid off and make it a habit after you get it paid off to not go into debt again. Learn to save your money up before you make a big purchase, so that way you don't have to take out any debt and owe this to some company that's going to be making money off of you. These are my 3 priorities. I think it's the best way to end 2020. Focus on saving, investing, and paying off your debt. Look at those 3 and see and put them in a priority list based on your situation. If you have a lot of debt, maybe that goes first. If you haven't really invested and need to start, maybe that goes first. If you need to work on saving up to 6 months of your expenses and you maybe only have a couple $100 set aside, that should be priority. Make sure that you take a good look at these and that you prioritize them, so that way you start this habit of saving. And this will be something that you should carry on for the rest of your life. This will help grow your wealth extremely well, and you're going to be thanking yourself in the future if you start now. People always say, next week I'll open up an account, or it's never going to happen. If you keep waiting for that perfect time to do it, now's the time to do it. And again, ignore the news, ignore the anything that you hear. Just open up an account, start investing. Open up a savings account, put some money in there. Start paying off that debt. By taking these initiatives now, you're going to be the one in the future with a nice nest egg, where people that don't focus on this now are going to be wishing they were. I guarantee it. So those are the 3 priorities. The plan for the ending this crazy year is to save, invest, and pay off any debt. I want to go over some stocks that I'm going to be focused on buying through the end of this year. These are stocks that I believe in. I'm going to go a little bit into them each and listen to what I have to say. Think about these stocks. Most importantly, you have to believe in these stocks. Any stocks that you invest in, do your research on them and be sure to stay invested long term. So the first stock I'm going to go over is AT&T. Now AT&T is one that I started to invest in because they had a really high dividend payout, as well as they have a lot of cash flow. They make a lot of profit, especially off of their phone business. But as you can see in this article, they're at a 10-year low. This is probably a great time to get started with AT&T. They're not going to be, they're not set up right now to be a high growth stock, but they pay excellent dividends. And I believe due to them trying to sell off DirecTV and they're a large company that has good cash flow. They're paying off their debt pretty quickly now. I think they're going to set themselves up to really do some great things in the future. The next company I'm going to be talking about is AbbVie. Now, AbbVie is a biopharmaceutical and healthcare company. It pays great dividends. In fact, it just recently boosted its dividend by 10%. It has gone up by about $10 per share, so I'm kind of going to be watching very closely to see any dips with this company and buying in. I kind of have an average of $90 per share right now. It shot up to near 100 and now it's back down to the mid 90s. So if it goes back down to the low 90s or 80s, I will be sure buying in. I think this company has a lot of promise for the future. They just bought the company that provides Botox to many people, and that serves for many different medical needs. I just really think AbbVie is undervalued right now, and that they are going to be a strong healthcare company and biopharmaceutical company in the future. They've really had a good history, have paid dividends for many, many years, and I think they're one to watch and invest in. The next investment I will be buying is an ETF. I've talked about this one before. It's SCHD. It's the Schwab U.S. Dividend Equity Fund. This fund, really goes after those high quality companies that pay sustainable dividends and increase their dividends. It's a way to diversify your portfolio, and I recommend you looking them up, looking at their top 10 holdings. They have really good quality companies in this ETF. They have a low expense ratio, and I've been recently moving from individual companies into ETFs. I just think it's the safest way to invest, as well as create good diversity in your portfolio. So SCHD is one that I'm going to be investing in the remainder of this year pretty heavily, and they pay a decent dividend. I think this is one that you can just have for the rest of your investing career, well through retirement, and it's going to continue to do very well. The next company is going to be Johnson & Johnson. Now, this stock has been undervalued for quite some time. It's still a great buy. I think they have it projected to be worth $177 per share, but it's been flirting in the 140s. I've been picking this stock up consistently, and it pays a good dividend, and Johnson & Johnson is a very diverse company within itself. They sell a lot of products, and I think that they are going to have some part with this help with the pandemic, and I think it's only a matter of time before Johnson & Johnson recovers from kind of being underperforming in the market this year, and they'll come out strong. They're a long-term hold for sure, and they'll be around probably for the rest of our lives and far beyond. The next company I want to talk about is Microsoft. Now, this is a tech company, and Microsoft is well known. It's used on just about anywhere you can think of, and they are recently really getting into the gaming industry with their Xbox line, and I really think they're going to be playing a bigger role in gaming in the future. I think they see the potential there. I think they're going to try to capture that market and grow it. They're also growing all other areas of their business, and I just their revenue continues to increase nicely, and I think this is another company like Johnson & Johnson that's going to be around for the rest of our lives and far beyond. And getting in now, just like with Johnson & Johnson, you'll probably thank yourself in 10, 15, 20 years that you did. So I'll be continuing to invest in this, especially if there's any dips through the end of this year. Last company I'm going to mention is Altria. Now, Altria is a cigarette company. They have a small line of wine, but I think this one is controversial. Some people feel it's not moral to buy into it based on their values. I have a unique look at this. I don't like cigarettes. I think they're bad for your health. But at the same token, I don't appreciate it that so many people around me when I go out and stuff are smoking, and I have to breathe that in. So I see it as this company might as well pay me for having to be around other smokers and breathing in that air. So they pay a really nice 8% dividend, and I think that they will have a strong position with a certain and I'm not sure if I should say on YouTube, but a certain drug that might be legal in the future, and I don't think it's a if, I think it's a when. I think they'll, they're going to have a big market with a certain drug if it gets legalized at the federal level. So this is one that, you might not buy just because you think it might not be the right thing to do based on your values and morals. I see it more as a stock that's going to make me money, and if I have to breathe other people's smoke in, and if they choose to smoke, then they're going to be paying me money for doing that, and that's how I see it. Whether that's wrong or right, you guys decide. I'd love to hear your comments on that. To end, what I'm going to be buying the rest of the year is just ETFs in general. Right now I have an ETF for each sector in the stock market except for consumer discretionary. I need to get into that sector and start picking maybe one or two companies. I'm thinking McDonald's as one, maybe Home Depot. But aside from that, I'm going to be boosting buying stocks in my ETFs. I really think that ETFs are the way to go. I think they're the safest thing to do. They diversify your portfolio, and it kind of takes the worrying out of things. So I'm going to be moving more towards ETFs and still holding individual companies that I truly believe in, like the ones that I mentioned. And so with that said, my message to you for the rest of this year is stay calm, stay safe, and stay invested, and make sure you take these 3 priorities of saving, investing, and paying off debt and focus on those. Make those your focus, not just through the end of this year, but through next year and beyond. Pay off that debt. Make sure you save up to 6 months of savings, and then invest. Try to set aside between 20 to 50% of your income. It's very doable if you just look around you and cut out the unnecessary things that you don't need. So with that said, you are in charge of yourself and your happiness. So I hope you guys choose to see the upsides to the rest of this year. Focus on improving yourself, and have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you very soon in an upcoming video. And thanks for tuning in to Mark's Finance and Fitness.